Good morning. Good, maybe afternoon, maybe it's noon. It's an honor to be here. So I'm here to tell a story that has three key terms. And you kind of already know where this is going, but the first is that it's a remote village. Let's see. The second, human rights violations. And the third is a drone. A couple years ago, this would probably be a really depressing story. And there are certainly sad stories we could tell about drones in remote places. But luckily, this is not that story. And it's not a story about privileged young technologists going to a remote area to save people's lives with fancy new technologies. This is a story that flips the script entirely on drones. But first, a little bit of background. So when I co-founded Digital Democracy in 2008, it was based on the belief that in an era of increasingly ubiquitous access to technology, we have a moral obligation to use it to challenge unjust power structures and empower everybody to take part in the decisions that govern their lives. So our mission is to work with marginalized communities, empowering them to use technology to defend their rights. And we work directly with grassroots groups, helping train them, build their capacity, and then building with them open source technology tools. Right now, most of our work is in Latin America, where we're working with indigenous groups throughout the Amazon region who are using technology to collect, manage, and share their own information about what's happening in their areas. This story takes place in Guyana, which is a country, an English-speaking country in the northern part of the continent, bordering Venezuela, Brazil, Suriname, and this story in particular takes place near the Brazilian border. So we're working with the Wapishan people, community of some 6,000 indigenous folks living in the Rupununi savanna. The Rupununi is a vast territory, 7 million acres, along the border with Brazil, and it's home to 80% of the mammals and 60% of the birds in Guyana. It's a really biodiverse region. It's a really special place. Much of it's grasslands, it's also some forests. So we're working with a network of 20 villages that have banded together to preserve their traditional way of life. They're working to preserve their culture and different traditions while also still interacting with the modern world. The government granted them land rights in 1969, but only a fraction of the land that actually is theirs has been recognized. And so they've been in a decades-long struggle to have their full land rights recognized. This is a map that was built based on hundreds of community consultations between 2008 and 2011. This is a map of the Wapishan territory. In contrast to the government maps, which locate a few of the villages and nothing else, this map shows how detailed their knowledge is of their territory, not just where they live, but even in the outer areas. They know where all the rare birds are, they know where the mammals live, they know where the resources are, and this map shows, with all the symbols that they created themselves, how they're using this land. So they've been in this process over the course of multiple years. It's a really participatory process to use maps and other technology tools to advocate for their rights. And we've had the honor of working with them along with international partner, the Forest Peoples Program. This is a simplified web app that my colleague Gregor coded literally under a mango tree in one of the villages to help them visualize data that they've been collecting with smartphones. All those dots you see are from some recent monitoring trips to the Brazilian border where illegal loggers, miners, cattle ranchers, et cetera, are coming across the border and then going back. So they've been covering this vast territory, trying to document what's happening so that they can raise awareness and advocate at a national level. But getting around the Rupununi is not very easy. There's flooding 4 months of the year. There are some transport vehicles that they have, but mostly they get around via motorbike or walking. And so they've enlisted our help in multiple ways to try to figure out this challenge of how do you solve covering this vast area. On foot and motorbike, they often don't find out about illegal logging until months after it's happened. Enter drones. We actually tried with satellites as well, but satellites often fail. Well, they're very expensive to get satellite coverage, and in the rainforest, there's often cloud cover. So they wanted to start experimenting with whether drones could help them cover some of their territory and get aerial footage of the different abuses that are happening on their land. And this is where we flipped the script. We looked into different options. The consumer drones, as I'm sure you all know, are becoming more and more accessible and cheaper, but most of those are quadricopters, which are great for short distances, but not good for covering long distance monitoring like the Wapishan need to do. And so we looked into more expensive fixed-wing planes that they could use to send on longer distances. But the problem is that if we get a really expensive drone, we bring it down, we teach them how to use it, what happens when that drone inevitably crashes and breaks? It becomes a really expensive, useless pile of tech. So, last October, my colleague Gregor traveled down to Guyana with 2 duffel bags full of styrofoam and parts and soldering equipment and glue guns. And over the course of 5 days, he worked with 6 of the team of 8 monitors to build their own drone. These are images, screenshots from a video that he shot, which you can watch on our website, of them learning how to solder. This is Tessa soldering the live video transmission onto the plane itself. This is great. They needed to tie 2 cables together, and so Philbo actually took traditional knots that he knew from hunting and used them to tie the cables together. They had to be super inventive. They were learning everything along the way. When the motor mount broke, they ended up using a piece of a beer crate to fix it back on. And then this is going out for the first time to test the drone. Setting up the field station, and then launch, the moment of truth. Take off. There we go. I mean, imagine if you had built that. So here they are, piloting, everybody gets a turn. That's Ron James' look on his face as he's watching the footage from the air of his own village for the first time. Here it is. And then the moment of victory, it's safe landing. Actually, coincidentally, it crashed about a month ago when Gregor was back down there, and they were able to fix it, which is the whole idea. So here is a composite of the 500 images that they shot on the first flyover of their village. 3D imagery that was created with Pix 4D. And again, imagine if you lived in this village almost all of your life. You've never seen it from above. And the first time you're getting this overview of it is when you yourself had built the plane that did the flyover and took the imagery. I dare say this is truly building with, not for. So after that initial test flight, they've been training lots of people in the village how to use it. It's really been a communal effort. This is a group of young women practicing the flight simulator at night. And then last month when Gregor returned to Guyana, they went out to a rural area where they captured imagery of illegal mining that's going on, setting up the field station. I can't show that imagery yet because the Wapishan own and control all of this information, and they have their own communal process through which they're deciding when to release it. Yeah, thank you. And that's really what I want to leave you with. You can go to our website, you can watch the video of the making of the drone. It's so inspiring to see people take what might be a foreign, frightening technology and really own it themselves. But most of all, this is not really a story about a drone, ultimately. It's a story about a community of people using technology to advocate for their rights. It's about people who want to make sure that their children can live on the land where their ancestors have lived for millennia. And it's a story that's an illustration for us, everybody in this room, of how to truly build with and not for. Thank you.